there is a dollar amount that, like, for example, people who give free coaching get free coaching results. If I show up or if I don't, I have nothing to lose. And that's a big piece of coaching in general. People will go ahead and do this thing where, you know what, let's try something different. Let's go ahead and give people a look into the community and let's give them this free thing to have them look to see if it's a fit. What ends up happening, the negative side of that is they're just not as present as they need to be. Now, if you put a dollar symbol next to something, now it's an investment, right? And with the investment comes discipline and commitment.
Welcome back, everybody, to Real Estate Junkies Coast to Coast. I'm on the West Coast. Rusty Ham, East Coast. Do you say hi?
Hello, Rusty. I don't know why my screen looks foggy right now, but this is just the way that it looks, and we're just going to have to go with it.
You're going to go with it? Awesome. But yeah, so today we're going to encompass all three. If you guys know about the podcast, we touch upon mindset, skill set, and systems. Most of the podcasts that we do, we touch upon either one of those pillars, right, Steve? Today, we're going to encompass all of them, and we're going to talk about the behind the scenes of what we do, which is coaching. Like, what does it entail? Who are we looking for? Number one, because people that seek out coaching, it's not for everybody. They're usually trying different coaching in programs. They're trying to see which one is the right fit. And then we're also, in turn, trying to look for that person that is serious and dedicated. So touch upon kind of the behind the scenes. I just recently came back from QLF Live. You're starting to go to certain live events, right? So behind the scenes, what does it entail?
Yeah, I think being intentional when it comes to coaching is what's really important, because how many times, Russell, we have people come into the community and they're like, I've already spent 20, 100,000 to hundreds of $1,000s on courses. I've never got anything out of it. And I think as the group that is going to mentor people and build their business side to side with them, the important piece is making it catered and custom to them. And I think there's a lot of people out there who are mentoring or coaching that we do this and this is how our system works. You do this, you're successful, or it's not a fit, get out of here. And I think the biggest piece of this, and we were talking about events, right? And that's what I think we're going to talk about today is when you show up to an event, you go there and you sit there and you listen. And the big piece I think about the events that we've done in the past, Russell, is that everything's on the fly. There's like a foundation and a structure to what our plan on. This is what the topic is going to be on day one. This is what we're going to do day two. This is what we're going to do day three. But they're so on the fly of doing things based off of like from first day, we noticed that the group that we have in front of us today, they are more advanced. So we're not going to do this foundational stuff. Or this is a group of people who are newer in real estate. They don't know a whole lot of real estate. We're not going to talk about things that they're not going to be able to retain because they're trying to get foundational stuff. So let's go into the behind the curtain of how intentional we are about events, building like the list of people who are going to go, like start at the very beginning. And that's sending out marketing to see who's going to come to an event, how many people we have confirmed, how many people who are confirmed and they've actually got tickets to fly out. What's the skill level of these people based off of the information that we collected? And we have very specific speakers that come to this event, right? Because maybe the subject of, remember when we had, what was it, a year ago or 2 years ago, it was all about 1 minute decisions. You remember that? And I think what happens is when you're about to commit to diving into something you haven't done before, or you've played around with creative real estate, but you thought it was a great idea and it could be a good fit for you, but you didn't pull the trigger. So coming up with a plan, and let's dive into like how intentional we are about behind the scenes, about who's there and how we pass people off to people we think are relatable to them. They could be a better fit, which level. We don't, just because we have $100,000 coaching plan, it doesn't mean that we're going to try to get as many people who are going to go at the highest level as possible. They have to fit in the bucket that the expectations purposes is that you're going to work here. This is what you're going to have to do. And if we feel you're not a fit, we're not going to put you there because we want you to be in groups with people who are running at your pace.
Yeah. So we're looking for potential real estate investors that want to change their lives, right? And they're reaching out to us for that purpose, right? Maybe they're just miserable with their W-2 and they just want a change, or maybe they want some side money on top of what they're doing. Maybe they love their W-2, but they just want to dabble into real estate. That they're reaching out to us or whoever out there. So behind the scenes, we have a couple of ways we do it, right? We have every Thursday we call it a Wicked Smart Sit Down, and where we bring to the general public certain aspects, and we bring people on, we'll bring associates on to tell us their story in hopes that these people that are not in the community will join, right? So that's one part. That's one person we're looking for. And then we're also within the community, we're looking for those serious and dedicated to move up, right? Wanting to get that in-depth coaching that we provide. We do have a beginner, so to speak, where it's just real basic stuff, right? Hey, this is what it looks like. This is what you do. But you're not going to get a whole lot of coaching, right? But behind the scenes, we're looking for that serious and dedicated one that's putting in the work, getting on the phones and giving us leads and having us work those leads for them. And then we're going to pour gas on them, right? We're like, hey, this is a fit for you. I think you need to move to that next level in order to get more deals done. So that it's behind the scenes, it's two phases, right? We're looking for those incoming ones that are just tipping their toe in the water. And then we're looking for those that are already in the community, where we think that they're the right fit for what we provide. Now, our community is fairly small, and we keep it that way. I don't because those bigger organizations are just trying to get people in just to get their money. I don't feel like our community is that way. Yes, you have to pay for coaching, right? It's not free, but we keep it small for a reason. I don't feel like, please be wrong.
There is a dollar amount that, like, for example, people who give free coaching get free coaching results. If I show up or if I don't, I have nothing to lose. And that's a big piece of coaching in general. People will go ahead and do this thing where, you know what, let's try something different. Let's go ahead and give people a look into the community and let's give them this free thing to have them look to see if it's a fit. What ends up happening, the negative side of that is they're just not as present as they need to be. Now, if you put a dollar symbol next to something, now it's an investment, right? And with the investment comes discipline and commitment. And I think that's what we touch into with these events here, are just what people don't understand. Or they show up to an event. As the consumer, you show up to an event, maybe you don't necessarily have any intention of spending any money, right? But when you start to see how the people you're surrounded with who are already here, how they move, that's going to obviously build some kind of excitement, which is going to put you in more of a position to make a decision. So here's like behind the scenes of like how intentional like the sales are. So the whole team, say there's 15 or 20 of us on a team, and we're going to meet in the morning before an event, and we're going to go over, here's the schedule. We look at the schedule of all, because everything, that's the other thing. I've been to events before where things run over, say there's different groups in different rooms. And then I think what this group has been so successful at is respecting the time of the people who are showing up that are affiliates, or they are showing this different real estate that we don't necessarily do. And then this group on the side here is supposed to start at 2:30. And then the people who are like running the whole event will just keep people in a room past 2:30. And that's not fair. And I think that what we've always been good at is being on time. That's why if people have been to an event before, there's a ticker in the back of the room, and that's your time to do your thing so that everything can stay on schedule and everybody can go where they need to go. In that morning where the whole team shows up, we go over the whole schedule. We're going to be here and here. Just because that schedule says that we're doing this, that, and the other, after a few hours of us speaking on stage and going over stuff, getting engagement of the crowd, like that's the big thing with events that I think people are scared to do, is live engagement, because there's no definite result of what's going to happen when you do that. But when you're really good at what you do and you're confident, and you're going to, like, remember when we did stuff like, I remember Brian was speaking on stage at one of the last events that I went to, and script school did not exist. It didn't exist an hour before we did it. And that made a huge impact, because what we ended up finding out when Brian said, all right, we're going to do, say a phone call is 8 minutes long. we're going to break this up. This is going to be an hour and a half session. We're going to do in the first 30 minutes, we're going to focus on literally the first 2 minutes of the call, because that's so important, right? The first 90 to 120 seconds builds enough rapport where they will be engaged enough to allow you to talk about this thing that they're uncomfortable with. So we drilled that. And then Brian said, here's the scripts. And he brought them up on the screen. He brought you, what's the reason why we're doing this? The questions that we're asking. And then we went into the crowd and we had everybody look to their left, the person to their left. And we're going to drill for the next 10 minutes. You doing scripts. Don't be easy on the person. Play around with it until you're feeling comfortable. Once we finished that section, we went to the next 2 minutes of the call. And Brian went through it. We drilled it, everybody in the crowd. And that's giving us also, like on the inside of the team who's running the event, what's the temperature of skill set in the room? And that's why they had the coaches go, we're going to throw a coach at each one of these tables, and not necessarily to even run scripts with them, but to see where people are at. And if they're stumbling, jump in and show them what they could be doing. One, outside the fact of the person who's at the event is just listening and they're like, oh, this person's being helpful. Like, we're trying to find out who the people in this crowd at this table is serious, what level is actually appropriate to them. If they were ever to make a decision and work with us, like, who are the people who are advanced? Who are the people who are at the beginning? Who's committed to this? Everybody's going to be nervous role playing at an event. They did not think they were going to be doing that. Role playing is super right? How uncomfortable is role playing when you know what to do? Never mind if you don't.
Yeah, we did it this year in QOS. I went over, we put it in the thirds, in the beginning, like say the first 90, 120 seconds, this is what you're going to say. And then, okay, you say it, and then now you say it, and then we got to read back. And then me and Rick called me, and I was the seller, he was the buyer. And so we kind of role played it in front of them. And then we told them, hey, you guys do it. What I like about that is, yes, you're going to have those people that are like, because cold calling for a lot of people sucks. It brings a lot of anxiety, all that kind of stuff. So it helps us as coaches to see, okay, who are the confident ones who are going to engage and be confident in what they're saying with a total stranger, right? Which is good. And then we're going to walk around the room and then we're going to say, okay, these are the people we need to pour gas on. Obviously, these are the ones that are nervous or, don't like to speak in public. Maybe they're going to struggle in this business. Maybe this is probably not the right fit for them. So it helps us to engage and see who are the serious and who are the dedicated ones, possibly will do deals in the future.
It's taking the temperature of potential in the crowd, right? Who's serious and who's not. So let's not take it to, we get to lunch, right? Everybody takes an hour break and maybe our team, again, huddles, right? And we have these giant Post-its on the wall. They're like the size of 3 times the size of a poster board. Right. And we have goals, right? As a team, we have goals of what we're looking to, who we're trying to bring in, what level, how many of, people who are an apprentice, which would be the first level of 90 or 120 days, 120 days.
Yeah.
And who's a good fit for that? And are they going to get anything out of this? Okay. We have a list that we want to have 7 apprentices from this event coming, right? Out of those 7 coaches, team members, you had conversations with people, you were sitting at the table, who seemed to have potential where that be a good fit. We start writing down names because that's another thing we're doing. We have books there. We're writing down names if we feel people are a good fit. We don't want to fill this group that's more intimate with people who aren't committed, because as coaches and as a group, just like in real estate, you want to be talking to people that you're not wasting your time with.
Right.
People who are committed. It's the same thing as if you're buying a house or you're looking to build someone's business. We want to put our time and pour gas on people who are ready to go at whatever level we feel they fit it. So we have apprentice on the wall. We have starter, immersion, high 6, like all these have different price points. And the higher the price point realistically is, the more committed. So we're writing down all these names of people we feel, all right, we have a list of 30 people right now we feel could be a fit for the community. All right, where do they fit? Which group do you think would be the most appropriate? Which coach do you think is going to have the most connection with based off of their personality? This person's quiet, right? Maybe this person isn't the best fit for, say, me, who's like crazy outgoing and in your face. Maybe they'll like it over time, but let's get them with the person who's going to make the most sense for them and let them grow within the community and start them here. This person has a business. They're already doing 2-3 deals a month. It's a mix between creative. They're trying to add, they're mostly wholesalers or flippers, but they want to add creative to it because of the fact that it's tougher to wholesale now because wholesalers are having trouble. Real estate's never been so difficult. That's what I've learned in the last 9 months of being on the marketing side is people are struggling. Even the ones who have successful businesses, they have to pivot because ever since 2021, when the houses were worth more money, sellers are more intelligent. They're more plugged in to the fact that they know that they can get more for their house now than they ever did. So that's where the creative side how it affects the creative side is in the past, somebody would be behind on payments of their house and they're running out of time. The bank, depending on what state you're in, there's different pre-foreclosure rules where they can take the house in 2 months of not missing payments. Places like Connecticut, like I've had evictions that took 6 to 8 months. Every state different. So where in the past, they're going to lose their home, they didn't have equity or they have had very little equity and they're going to lose their home. Now today, and we're still at that place where I think the market's starting to plateau, but you could be behind on payments, but your house is appreciated so much where that person who's behind on payments can not pay their mortgage, put their house on the market, and they can still make a bunch of money. And what will happen is at the closing table, they're behind on a blanket many payments. And whether they're working with a real estate agent or an investor, like you're building in things, you're catching them up before the closing because maybe there's liens on the house, whatever it is, but they can still make money and they know that.
Right.
So, and it's smart, right? All sellers, like it's their right to want to get the most for their house. Everybody is sentimental about their house. Their house is the best one on the block, whether they're right or wrong. And that's where real estate is becoming more difficult. And no matter what niche you are in real estate right now, you're affected in different ways. Wholesalers are having trouble getting houses at that 60, 70% where they want to be. And they're getting leads and they're saying everyone wants retail. They just want retail and they just don't want to pay a realtor. So like you can either eat the cost of your marketing and paying for leads and not close people, or you can pivot in something that's uncomfortable you've never done before that now gives you an advantage with these type sellers. Yeah. So I think it's important that like at these events, you're going to start seeing different investors shifting in different directions. And the smart ones, what they're going to do is they're going to know that there's a learning curve. They're not going to blame this new marketing channel that they're maybe unfamiliar with that makes them uncomfortable. Like they know that I'm going to need to get blank amount of leads for me to convert. And it's going to be a longer amount of leads to contracts than it was with this wholesaling or flipping that I'm really good at now. There's going to be a longer curve, but the more tools you have, Russell, the more ability you have to find a solution with these situations that are back to these conventional situations.
Yeah.
I just want the most for my house instead of just taking cash and moving on.
Yeah, no, you're right. We're bringing in a lot of associates now that are real estate investors. They were a fix and flipper, right? A lot of them have some buy and holds and they want to exit creatively, right? So now we're bringing them in the community. So they're already there, right? They already know how to talk to sellers. They already know how to get houses under contract. They're familiar with that type of niche, right? Which is real estate investing. They're just not familiar with the creative side. So they're asking for our help. And so we bring them in and that's like a way we interview is, hey, if you just let us help you exit this way. And then we can partner in these deals because you don't know how to act through rent, whatever that is. So we bring them in and they ask for our help and we help them. And we've had 2 or 3 people that have had buy and holds that they're just done with the buy and hold. They just want to get rid of it. They don't want to be landlords anymore. So they reconverted into a rent to own and now they're benefiting from that. So that's one. You talk about the different levels of coaching. Chris will help them with that. We have certain coaches for certain levels, but like you said, we all help each other out. And it depends on the personality, right? Maybe somebody who's at the starter level, there's somebody at the starter level that I can help and that I can relate with. Even though I coach mostly high six, people that spend the most money and who are the most motivated, right? Because like you said, they've invested that type of money, so they're going to be more motivated to get deals done. The starter level, obviously, they haven't put that much money in, but I am there to help them anyway. It doesn't matter if they're starter or wherever like you said, we're all there to help each other out. And if I relate to an associate that's a starter level, then I'll help that starter. It's not, oh, I'm going to shun them because they didn't pay enough money to get my help. So that's behind the scenes too, is with, like you said, personality wise, right? I might not relate to certain high six and know, hey, can I work with this other coach? And yeah, there's no hard feelings, right? It's not a cookie cutter thing where I'm going to lay this money down, and it's going to be that one coach. All the coaches need to understand that personalities matter, and that not everyone's going to have that same drive to help that one person, because if they're not fully invested, we have an effort for effort, right? If you're not going to put the effort in, we typically don't lift our finger too fast, right? We'll help you, but it's not super urgent on our plate. So, go for it.
Yeah, I think that, so if you look at selling an event, it's similar. It's all psychology, right? Psychology with the seller, you're trying to get a house on a contract. We have to do the same thing at an event as you have to do with the person you're trying to buy the house from. It starts with establishing a relationship, trust, authenticity. You got to get people to buy in so you have a chance to help them. So that's the sales piece. You find an opportunity with somebody who can be successful. And then we're trying to just, like, when we go to these events and we have goals, the goal isn't to hit this financial goal of the event so that financially it's a business, right? You need to bring people in so you can mentor them and you can make money at the same time. But the big piece is surrounding yourself and creating a community with like-minded people that are bought in. They have the same exact integrity as us. They believe in the same values as us, right? And then it's knowing who those people are in the crowd, catering to them, putting the right people in front of them that are going to put them in a position to buy. And you're putting them in a position to buy because, like we talked about at the very beginning of this podcast, if Russell's time is very important and sacred, then Russell should be surrounded with people who are going to get the most out of Russell. And it's because they're committed. If you're showing up to calls, like how many people, I remember this specifically from coaching over and over again. And this is the general rule of thumb of coaching. 20% of your students do 80% of the deals. The reason why is the 80-20 rule is a real thing. 20% of the people are going to be committed. They're going to work their butt off and they're going to do the majority of the deals. And then you get the 80% who are there for the milk and cookies, right? They want to listen to Russell. They want to say, oh, Russell knows so much about real estate. I'm going to show up to every single thing when Russell is speaking. But they're not taking action. They're not making their own calls. They're not getting traction. They're just showing up like they did with all the other stuff they've done in real estate and didn't have success. And they said, I spent $100,000 on coaching and never got out of it. But if you go back to a timeline and you were ever able to follow this person for their real estate journey who's not having success, there's patterns, right? It's not taking action, but just bringing in the information. But there's a fear connected to getting traction by calling, being in uncomfortable positions. The realistic side is if you're going to have traction, you got to do things that are extremely uncomfortable until you get that confidence where that uncomfortable thing is now your strength. And that's the same growth as us as coaches, right? You start off as you don't believe in the information that's coming out of your mouth is going to be beneficial to others. And then you start seeing traction as a coach. So you're closing deals that their business is building. Now they have money in their account. It's affecting their family. You as a coach are like I got a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Fulfillment out of watching people who were a lot like me, which was your everyday blue collar person who is incredibly hardworking. They'll do whatever they need to do for their family. What they're doing is they're just piling hours at stuff, but they're not getting traction because they could only be in one place at one time. So they're in their head, like me, I was giving 100% to 30 things, but that's bad math. That's a month. You can't do that. So what ends up happening is it's 30% at the most effort to that 30%. You think it's 100, it's actually 30 because your bandwidth only allows you to be so productive at that effort that you're putting in. Even though it feels like a lot, you can't retain information when you're in too many places at once. We talk about going narrow and deep, right? Really focusing on this skill set to get really good at it. And that's something that I struggled with in the beginning was like, I wanted to be great at everything now. Not how it works, right? You're Russell, like you when you played basketball, it's the same freaking thing. You're not going to learn how to dribble without looking at the ball and then understand the thought process of how plays that you guys are putting together, how they evolve, who should be where. When I was really good at hockey and I had teammates that I was always on the same line with, Like I knew where they were going to be before they were. And that's just from understanding like people's skill sets, where it was with like things they were going to do that they were going to come up short at. I knew that this was designed for this person to be a playmaker. This person was going to be someone you're going to put in a position to score. This person's going to be always like, if something happens quickly and the play moves and someone's get out on defense, I know the offensive players that are going to get back on defense. I know the ones that are going to hang and be in the wrong places. Like you got to start learning that in general as a team at these events. It's the same thing. I know your skill set, my skill set. I know the people who are on the sales team and when to put somebody in front of them that they're going to close because we've already done the heavy lifting. We know they're a fit. They've bought into the event because they know that we're good people. We're really looking how to build their business and they know they're in the right room. It's all the same thing. It doesn't matter whether it's sports, it's business, it's relationships. You got to know how everybody that you're surrounded with moves so you can get the best out of those relationships and get the highest productivity out of it as well. And that's a big piece, I think, and from going to events or seeing other affiliates that are events who just sit at the table, they're very quiet, and they're just thinking that people are going to come to them and they're going to be successful. But what do people do? They're attracted to people who are getting out there, learning about them. Like as much as it's uncomfortable to have 150 people go to an event and I'm extroverted, it doesn't mean that inside of me, it's easy for me to go and say, I'm going to go to this person. I'm going to go to that person. I'm going to have the same energy. Like the best salesmen show up and they're going to be good at this because the longevity of having confidence, high levels of energy and producing every day, it doesn't dip. And that's not easy, but being successful and being able to give everybody the same energy and experience, that's where the traction comes. But I think that there's so much to sales that I'm learning now. Like I thought I was in sales when I was doing coaching. I was coaching. Yeah, I wasn't in sales. All I was doing was completely committing and giving these people who I was coaching everything that I had. The sale was already done. I'm building businesses. I'm not selling. Right. And now I'm selling, and it is a very difficult business to go from being okay, from being extroverted and just knowing how to talk to people and building trust because they just know I'm genuine, to actually putting people in a position to have to take action and doing it in a way where the questions that you're asking are in the perfect organization that build trust, also set them up in the very beginning of the call to get the right expectations. So the sale is actually happening before they knew that they were buying something.
Yeah.
And there's so much to it. And I'm learning that now, but this is why I think this will be a cool listen for people who don't know the intentionality behind an event. And like most people show up to an event and they're not spending $1. They spend a lot of money to be there, fly out and all those things, but it's just buying in and getting people to commit because everybody has aspirations to be successful, make a bunch of money, but making that decision to then bank on themselves, like that's the uncomfortable piece. You and I are not going to make their calls for it.
Right.
No one's coming to save me or you.
Right.
It's you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I like about it. Because there's programs out there that you spend money, you watch a few videos, they give you some coaching, and then they're like, okay, you're on your own, go for it. But what I like about ours is we're in the trenches with them, right? We're going to make calls, for them. We're going to help them out with our contract. We're going to step by step, we're going to be with them. So they are getting what they're paying for. They're hypothetically, whatever value that is, they're going to get hands-on coaching, which I love. But you said it's the 80-20, right? 20% of them are going to do 80% of the deals. And I do the leaderboard and it's the same people. And I always, in the back of my mind as a coach, I always wonder, okay, this person spent hypothetically $100,000 and they're not doing anything. That baffles me, right? It really does baffle me that someone was spending that much money. But if they put the effort in, we're gonna be right there we're gonna be right there with them. And you touched a little bit, the sales part. You're selling yourself twice. You're selling twice. You're selling yourself, and then you're also selling product, coaching, or whatever that is, and leads. So that's important for those people that are listening. It's important because we are authentic, right? You want to work with somebody who's real, right? We talked about I think a couple episodes ago, how real you are and how vulnerable you are sometimes. And people enjoy that. They love that part about you. And then that builds the trust, right? And once they trust you, then they're going to buy that product, whatever that product you're trying to sell. So yes, we are in it to make money. I think we're not lying, but we're also trying to help you with your dreams, whether that leaving your W-2 or, like I said in the beginning, maybe adding that extra income that you want. We're going to help you do that, but there's a cost behind it. And behind the scenes, we're looking for those that are serious and dedicated. And if you're serious and dedicated, we're all hands on deck. We're going to help you out and help you reach that goal.
You remember when, I'm trying to think event wise, we were all together. I think it was me, you, Brian, Mike, Rick. Am I missing anybody else?
That was the last one standing there.
And like the best salesmen or women, sales happen when nobody knows sales happen. That's when you know you're good at it, right? You feel like you're being sold. It is an incredibly uncomfortable feeling for both people, right?
Yeah, 100%.
When you're trying to get the sale and things not working and stuff like that. And you have to know when it is to pull back and realize, listen, it sounds like I did it this week. That's a big thing that we're pivoting to is let's not onboard people who are the minimum spend. And we have a sense that they don't have the financial capabilities to give this 3 or 6 months. Because what's going to happen is they're going to have a bad experience. They're going to either blame us or just get even more down on themselves that this isn't good for them. I think that's a big piece in general of knowing opportunities, because if the 80-20 rule is real, which we know it 100% is, and like we have to be very selective now. Like you have to be selective of the people that you bring in so you can get the most out of the community, your business can grow. You can't just take people in. And I remember when I first started coaching and I watched the evolution of that, of let's just bring a bunch of people in here. And then the community started hitting, like what ends up happening is a culture develops, right? And it's either a good culture, everyone's bought in and it's fantastic, or you bring in people with bad attitudes that have the wrong expectations that aren't here to commit. And then it develops like a cancer, and that stuff spreads faster than success. Let's just be honest here. And I just think that's something that if you're going to go to an event, you have to go there with some kind of intention. I know we've talked about it a million times, but like when I go to an event, and I learned this from this group, and I'm not presenting, and I'm not there to be pushing anything. Like you got to show up with knowing what you're trying to get out of this. And maybe your business is lacking here and here. You need to know that. You need to be honest. My strong suits are here. This is where I need to be. I need to improve. And I'm going to this event to improve on these things so I can snowball it with the things that are being successful. And I think that's somewhere people miss the marks. But like we've said a million times, Russell, like when you go to these events, sometimes it's not the person that's speaking that makes the most impact. It's usually a dinner. You're communicating with someone. Yep. And you just picked up some small thing that makes a giant difference, because you want to know you surround yourself with people who are being successful. You don't want to surround yourself with people who are like, they can't provide value to you. If you do that, you stay there, right? You are the result of the 5 people that you hang out with, whether it's your family members, right? Like you'll see that your family members, you'll have similar attitudes. You're all super positive. It's a great time, or you got a bunch of downers who you bond with negativity. That's the same thing with a business. You got to figure out a way to put the right people in the right place so you can continue to scale. You can't scale by doing the same things every day. Yeah. And I think that's the piece of personality wise, when we're at these events and we were saying, putting the right people in front of the right people, like how many times do we have somebody that say they listen to Chris's podcast, right? And they're like really interested. So they set up a call to see if it's a fit or not. Mm-hmm. There's very specific questions that are asked of you in those to find out if you're a fit. It's not only just to know about where you are and have a 15-minute conversation. It's our filtering process to know if this person is a fit, their values line up, they're going to commit. And then also from there, what happens next? Chris will say, based off of what you do for a living, what your aspirations are, Russell had a very similar upbringing from his career to how he came into here. I think you should talk to Russell.
Yep.
And Russell's going to call and you're going to have a conversation with that person, and they're probably going to connect with you differently. And yeah, so like with the situation with like when somebody's coming into the community, maybe they're pulled off by Chris at podcast, Chris talks to them. And I think what's important is like relatability. So for example, when we're in these events and when someone is on stage, like myself, like you, Russell, whether it was Chris, Zach, there's a big separation where people look at that person's not even relatable because they're already super successful. Nah, because I haven't done any deals yet. So that's the importance of having different personalities in the crowd because they may resonate with somebody who like, so for example, with me, where did I come from? I was manual labor, blue collar person, and I could be successful on stage with chains, sneakers, and tight pants. Why can't I be as well? So that's a big piece of making people feel comfortable making these 1-minute decisions, right? It's a lot of money,
Right.
whether you're coming in for something that's a smaller value, like $5,000 or $8,000 and just dipping your toes in. And then it starts jumping, right? It could be a coaching segment that's $25,000 to get this kind of coaching, or 50 or 100 or $80,000. That's a giant jump in commitment. So being able to see somebody who is on stage that is relatable. Do you remember specifically like Brian? I remember being on stage and we used to talk about how Zach and Chris aren't relatable. They've built this empire. They've been in real estate for much longer. And then they started noticing over time that just talking to these entrepreneur, successful people, the person talking to them is actually probably going to have more results talking to someone like me and you.
Right.
Who, our real estate business is 3, 5, 6 years old. Right. So now we're a step down to making them feel more comfortable being vulnerable and telling us about listen, I want to do this. I love this group. I have a feeling at this event I've never had before. There's a big disconnect in other stuff I've done before where I didn't feel that it was connected to me. I felt I was just being talked at. And all these people in the room, yeah, they're successful, but how the hell am I going to bridge that gap? The gap is giant. So you get analysis paralysis, right? I'm at the beginning. These people have already done this. How am I going to get there? And that's the big piece of getting people to make decisions because yes, the sales side is getting you to come into the community to bring in revenue. But if we never have a chance to help you, make a decision, that's us. Is it saying giving you a disservice?
Yeah.
For instance, where like you have to be able to have a shot at the plate to be successful, and making people feel comfortable enough to do that is a big piece of this. And that's what holds the majority of people back is just making that decision. And I think if you go to an event with the right frame of mind, it doesn't even necessarily have to be I'm going to spend money or I'm not. Be present.
Yeah.
Being willing to be uncomfortable and know that being successful is not perfect. Not supposed to be perfect. It's going to start with slamming your head against the wall over and over again. Your traction isn't where you wanted it to be. And then when things pick up, now you start understanding, like you get that perspective that this can't happen.
Yeah.
But it's getting people to commit for long enough for that to happen. And that's that gap.
Yeah.
Is learning, earning, and then scaling.
Yep.
And hopefully if anything that we talked about today, outside of giving you an insight of what it's like at events and what we're doing on our side, it always still comes down to you. You have to make a decision. You have to do something uncomfortable. And your career that you have now, you did the same thing. The stakes might have been different because people were paying you to do that. But for you to keep your job, you have to commit. You have to continue to grow. And it's the same thing with a business. You just got nobody else that's paying you. You decide to take your foot off the gas pedal. You're either the direct benefit or you're going to be on the other side of it impacting you in a way that it's not good for your family. It's not good for your finances. And I don't know, hopefully this is helpful to people. It was helpful for me just reviewing this kind of stuff. Right. And I appreciate you bouncing that stuff back and forth.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, it's not for everybody, right? We talk about it even with real estate, right? The way we buy the creative way, it's not for everybody. Our coaching is not for everybody, right? It has to resonate. And you got to connect. You have to have that connection with the people that you're going to invest money in, right? If you don't have that connection, or if you don't feel like it's right, but yes, we want you to make a decision, but also you need to reflect and say, okay, is this the best decision for me and my family? So Good stuff, Steve. I appreciate you for jumping on. And we will catch you on the other side. Hopefully we'll have some guests and we'll bring some different angles of real estate because we are real estate junkies.
Yeah.
All right, Steve. Have a great weekend, buddy.
Russell, we will see you next week, and I promise I will show up. I will be back.
All right. Take care, buddy.
Let it do.